So this is the first one of these I've done at night, and I've just come back from walking my dog. So, and we take long walks. So I'm just a little bit, I guess I'm a little bit sweaty, but that's fine. Whatever. Was moved for one reason or another to make this tonight. What I'm going to talk about is it's a little bit uncouth, but people this week, somebody again encouraged me, like, oh, you should get on the dating sites. And so that inspired me to say a bit about that. And what I want to say, I guess, I mean, let me background first. I am divorced. I've been divorced 10 years, give or take, more than 10 years at this point. Amazing. And so I'm single dad, dog, have 50-50 custody. There are a lot of people, male and female, in my situation out there. And then, of course, there are a lot of people who are still looking. So, in some way, that statement makes a kind of sense, I guess. And yet, to be clear, and I don't normally talk about this. It's not something that needs to really be out there. But for the purposes of this video, and for the purposes of saying this is broken and we should fix it somehow, but I don't quite know how. uh, I have been I mean, I've been divorced 10 years, right? And it's not like anything's on fire. Like, I'm fine. I'm okay. I have friends, and I have acquaintances, and I'm active, and I have family, and of course I have kids, right? Single dad. It's busy, so I'm not lacking for things to do. I'm not lacking for people to talk to, so it's fine. But at the same time, like, why not, right? And every now and then, it kind of depends on what's going on, right? As you might imagine, there are some times in life where you're like, why would I? Like, I don't. That's the last thing I need. And then there are other times in life when it's like, oh, I should really attend to this, right? This is one of those moments where it'd be really nice not to be doing this alone, or where it'd be really nice to have some companionship that's mine, right? It's not a family member, it's not a child, it's not a pet. And so I have been off and on. And let me tell you the output of that 10 years, multiple dating sites. I have at times paid because I wanted to maybe respond to somebody. Um, but total number in 10 years of chats, like just like conversations, right? More than two messages in a sequence at all, 10 years, is three. That has happened three times in 10 years. Multiple dating sites. Now, I should say, like, to be clear, I have generally avoided Tinder. I generally avoid, like, I don't list, I'm not in the, I'm looking for something casual for an evening crowd, because that's, like, I really don't need that kind of trouble, right? Like, my life is full, right? This is not playing around, so to speak. So, so I realize there may be more action in those areas. But again, that would be sort of part and parcel of what I'm talking about, which is that somehow this is not necessarily going entirely well for all of us, not just me. And I should say, having been on the sites and having talked to some single women, like, in real life, that I did not meet on the sites, um, some like, I should be a good candidate, right? And I'm not to toot my own horn, but I'm going to go over me first. I'm going to go over what I see out there in other people. So, what do you hear that women are looking for, right? The narrative is, gosh, I'd like somebody who's tall, minimum 6 feet, six figures, good job, life is together, educated, can carry on a conversation, all those things. Well, and at the same time is masculine, right? And to be honest, that's me, right? I'm over 6 feet tall. I'm not going to talk about salary too much, but I'm an executive at a publicly traded company, so make of that what you will. Uh, I I have been an executive for many years. At this point, my career is fairly well established. I fix my own cars, and I DIY, I remodel my own bathrooms. And, I'm not, I generally like to think I'm not like a, what colloquially is called a soy boy, although who knows. I am educated. I have graduate degrees. I have a doctorate. I attended without wanting to get into personal details too much, I attended private schools in the U.S. that could be called legendary, and yes, I have a PhD, and I should be sort of the guy, right? Only I'm not. And why is that? Well, we can get into that in a minute. Um, and on the flip side, so from the other direction, um, and you may presume based on all of that you're thinking to yourself, well, what's in the profile? And keep in mind there are some in-person conversations too, right? Like I do know people, I interact, I network, I do uh, move around locally over the course of the day and the week, and shake hands and so on. So this is not all on the sites, but it's worth sort of starting with the discussion of the sites. So you may be thinking, well, what's the matter with your profile, right? So keep that in mind. And now let's go to the flip side. So what do I hear and see out there from women who would like to be involved? Well, the number one thing, and this is like, I can't emphasize this enough. Uh, the women who are in the places where I have met people, overwhelmingly, the number one thing that you see and hear from them is, I am a catch. I know I'm a catch, say they. I earn six figures and have two houses and am financially secure and tremendously organized. Or I am a founder and own my own business that I have grown into multiple locations locally. And I am financially secure. And I have, the thing you always see. This is very dating site specific. But you always see I have my shit together, and I would like somebody else who has their shit together, right? In person, it's a little less off-putting than that, and I'm giving away a little bit there by using that adjective. But it's very similar, right? There's a lot of like job talk and success talk, and a lot of sort of, for lack of a better word, like there's a little bit of a sort of pissing contest, kind of an interaction model. And again, I told you, with that thought, like, oh, what's the matter with his profile, to put that on the shelf. But you may see where I'm going to go when I say, let's look at the way that women in my sort of age cohort are presenting themselves by and large, especially those who are most actively looking. And if you can hear my dog like munching in the background, she's just secured for herself a crunchy bone. But this is, I don't know how to put this gently. Like, none of this is attractive. Like, as a guy, and I think like women may not understand this. Um, these are not things that guys are attracted to. These are things that women are attracted to. In other words, I think they're presuming that we're women, maybe. I don't know, right? But like, I have a big house and a lot of money, and I'm very disciplined and financially secure, and I'm a boss with a ton of authority and et cetera. It's like, I don't care. I mean, I interact with executives all day long. Like, okay, great, good for you. Let's shake hands. Like, let's network. Maybe we can do a deal. What does this have to do with personal life? Like, for a guy, and I think I'm not a woman, but my understanding is that for women, this is tremendously attractive. Maybe because it's, this is somebody who's ambitious, or this is somebody who can be a good provider, or makes you feel secure, or I don't know. I'm not, like I said, I'm not a woman, but as a guy, like, I just don't care. In fact, it's frankly off-putting, and it's not. I mean, sometimes it's off-putting because, especially with people that you meet in person, and you start and you're having fun banter, and then within 5 minutes, somehow it's turned into a kind of pissing contest, or it's turned into like business talk. That's off-putting. Uh, if it, it just, it speaks to a way that somebody conceives of themselves that is boring. Like, it sounds like going to work. As a guy, it just sounds like, oh, so I get involved with this person. What do they care about? They care about money. They care about being an executive themselves. They care about being financially secure. They care about doing work and buying houses. Like this sounds like what I'm signing up for is to come home from work and be at work. This is all work talk. This is all job stuff. This is all economics. And that's, as a guy, that's really not what I'm ever looking for in companionship. I get that all day long. That's and from all the other guys. And in fact, it gets tiresome. That's why guys want to hang around with somebody who's not like another executive from the company, right? So this is fundamentally misplaced, and yet this is like overwhelmingly what's out there, and overwhelmingly, even when it's not on the sites, when you talk to somebody and you're having a conversation, like women want to steer the conversation back to, well, I should say, this is one type, right? They want to steer the conversation back to like work and economic success and being on the job and having authority and being good with money and this is like, it makes you're polite, but you're trying to figure out a way to exit the conversation because it's just not interesting, right? This is boring. This is not, um, like I can have that conversation all day long at work. I don't need to have it after hours, and in fact, it's kind of disappointing. Um, Now there are other things that you hear. So that's the most common, and this again may just be the circles I run in, but there are a lot of like single women in these circles. The other one is having kids, right? And I mean, I have kids. A lot of people, if you're my age and you're single, chances are you have kids, and that's, let's be honest, like it's not the easiest thing, especially as a guy. It's like, okay, I love my own kids. All the other kids are um, not worth my time, or like they're the competition. Like they're the competition to my kids. Right? This is gonna be a struggle, but um, at the same time, in principle, like it's hard to be opposed to that. But when it's framed as I'm looking for somebody to be a father to my kids, I hear that too, right? And I mean, no, I'm a father to my kids. Like, if by accident and responsibility, like we get into a relationship and that is sort of the normative role, then yeah, okay, we'll make it work. And I'm totally willing to do that. But when the lead is I'm looking for you to father my kids, um, that's going to be a really hard sell to a guy, especially a guy who already has his own, right? And then, to be honest, the third, the third sort of category, or the third way that this goes down, is kind of, there are a lot of different ways that it presents, but I would just describe it as the hot mess. And very often, these women don't think they're a hot mess. They don't even realize, although in some cases they do. So one genre of the hot mess is they just go on and on and on about all their adventures. And this is, this can take multiple forms. It can be adventures with guys, it can be adventures without guys, but it's like, the jet setting and the boating and the tourism and the backpacking across continents and the hitching a ride on a freighter and getting stranded in the jungle or what, like it's all adventures, and that's great. And also like it makes it makes you sound like you don't have a lot going on. I'll be honest. Like somehow, I think this is like over presented, right? I actually think the women who present themselves this way are trying to paint, like I would call it like an Instagram, like a verbal Instagram. Like they're trying to be an Insta profile, like straight up in life. And the thing is, like, you just don't believe it, right? You're like, okay, I believe you've done all these things, but you're making it sound like this is the entirety of your life. Like you actually, like you don't ever do the dishes, and you don't ever have heartburn and take Rolaids, and you don't ever have to go to a doctor's appointment, and you don't ever go to work. You just are successful and adventurous and your life is nothing but nonstop adventure. And I just don't believe it. It's I experience it like an Instagram feed. Like, okay, this is great. Also, it's 100% fake. Um, and then beyond that, it's like, even if that's for real, like, why would I, like, you sound like a tremendous amount of work. Like, I have kids and a job. And, like, I'm not going to be, I mean, if you're always like getting stranded in a jungle somewhere or jumping out of airplanes with a parachute, like, more power to you. Enjoy yourself. Also, I got other stuff to do. Like, I won't be joining you. And so that's, but it really comes off as like, who lives like that, right? Who lives like that? If you're 20, fine. If you're middle aged and you live like that, like this, at least to a guy like me, and you know, I think I'm a fairly middle of the road guy in a lot of ways. It sounds immature. It sounds like a hot mess, right? It sounds like you're running away from something, if that really is your life, or you can't sit still for 5 minutes, or you're trying to impress somebody that's in your head from some time in the past, and you're failing, and so you just keep trying. I don't know. It just sounds maladjusted, and so that's one version of a hot mess. Another version is everything in your profile or everything in your initial conversation is political, right? Like, if your move when we start chatting is to jump right into like Trump, um, and like, make no mistake, like, I'm not MAGA, I'm an independent, and I've said in other videos, like, a pox on both their houses. I am not. I ain't down. I ain't down. I think both parties have been disastrous. I think Biden was disastrous. I think Trump is disastrous. I think we are on the path of disaster. So this is not, I am not flag waving MAGA guy. And yet, if the first exchanges in a conversation or the things that are on your profile are all about, you know, asking me if I'm a Trumper, or talking about how much you hate Trumpers, or talking about, there are some out there who call themselves Trumpers, right? That you'll occasionally meet the woman who's like, I'm a Trumper. Are you a Trumper? And it's like, no, I'm a person, and um, I have a life, right? Like, I I don't name myself or describe myself using names of other people who happen to be in politics. And so to me, that's another form of like hot mess. I guess when I say hot mess, I just mean people who are lost. They just seem lost, right? Like, I can't believe you're middle aged and you're living this way, right? So adventure girl is one, 40-year-old adventure girl, or 40-year-old, like, I'm just a political animal, right? Never mind that it's not like they're running for office. Like, it'd be different if they're like, I mean, I guess I haven't had occasion to meet and possibly um, go out with like senators and congress people. So maybe it would feel different if they were actually political operatives in our system, but they're not, right? So, and yet they frame themselves at first glance as though everything in their life revolves around politics. And, so no, I'm not a Trumper. And also, the fact that you ask me that immediately is a turnoff anyway. So I'm sorry. It's like, that's the fact that you would ask if I'm a Trumper, even though I don't like Trump, makes me think I would not like to hang out with you. And then, another version of the hot mess, and this one is also regrettably common. So two of the three chats that have resulted from dating sites over the last 10 years did sort of culminate in a phone call. And on both of them, said woman who, um, in many cases, was trying to present herself as together and financially secure, and I've started my own business and I have my shit together and blah, 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 blah. Um, Turned up on the call like drunk and embarrassed themselves. And these are, again, I'm no spring chicken. These are middle-aged people. And so, now let's pull back off the shelf. What must be in my profile, right? Like, why have I had so few chats? And here's the thing, like, I think, and this is a vague sense, so correct me if I'm wrong. This is me as a guy observing what I think I see out there. I think, you know, as a guy, I'm having trouble. First of all, I think I have trouble making space for women today to be women. Like I'm always looking for sort of like when I look at profiles or when I'm out there, I'm always looking for like the cool girl from the 90s, right? Like ponytail and jeans and like doesn't take stuff too seriously and has hobbies and they're not all like real estate or whatever. But you sort of have to meet people where they are. And I think one reason this doesn't work for me is because I'm not meeting women where they are these days, which seems to be like their lives do revolve around Trump and real estate and being rich. And so I may just be looking for somebody who's not, I may not be accepting of the real folks that are out there. But by the same token, right, what's in my profile? Well, I'm very average, right? Like I'm not trying to be flash. I'm not all GQ looking. I ain't like jacked or stacked or whatever the word. No, don't get me wrong. Like I start more than half of all days with a 5K. I do martial arts. Like but I'm not. It's not a focus of my life to look like an Insta profile, right? Um, and and by the same token, right? Like I don't make it a focus of my when I talk to people. I don't lead with, "Hey, I'm an executive at a publicly traded company." In fact, I sort of try to, maybe in the worst guy way, um, I try to sort of keep that off the table because I don't want it to be about that, right? But maybe it just is. I don't know. Um, and and I don't by I've been told this is like as reported by women. I'm a poor dresser. I cut my own hair, right? This is not what executives are apparently supposed to do. I have been lambasted for that in the past. Cut my own hair. I almost always just wear jeans and a black t-shirt. Like that's because because I do. Because that's because I hate spending time and money on other stuff, right? And and I don't see myself changing that. And this is a problem, right? This is all part and parcel. Here's where we come back around to my original sort of um, framing of this, which is something is wrong. I don't know how we fix it. Like part of what's wrong is that the women are out there saying, I have two houses and I make six figures and I'm looking for a guy who's the same. I have my shit together. You should have your shit together too. And when you're meeting somebody in person, it's all about work and success, or it's all about adventure, or like there's nothing about everyday life, right? Everybody, if and as a guy, like how much am I willing to change, right? People, and again, like this comes from a conversation. Somebody's like, "Well, you've been single for 10 years. Like, you should get on the dating sites. You should put in some effort." Um, and my sort of, and this is exactly what women will say out there. Like the guys don't want to put in any effort, right? Put in any effort these days. And like, no, if that's like change the way you dress and pay more money for your haircuts and talk about work first rather than trying to not talk about work, like I ain't gonna change. I'm just not. Like it's not worth it to me. And more to the point, it's here's what I think that means. Um, there is this weird gap between the sexes right now. Everybody knows it. Everybody's talking about it, and this is part and parcel of that thing. Like I would, I would probably, if I thought like the love of my life, somebody I was going to spend the rest of my life with, was going to emerge by virtue of these changes, like I would do it. But these kinds of changes, right, that sort of veering toward making myself a little more Instagram, making myself a little more interested in the fact that she has started a business and is financially secure. Like changes, like the way that like these positionings lead to something, right? A particular kind of approach nets a particular kind of person, right? The changes in a particular direction are directional, right? Like that's not the way I want my life to go. right? I'm at an age where I want it to be less about money, less about work, less about how together we are. Because I was 30 like some time ago. I'm not mystified or impressed by having your life together anymore. In fact, the older I get, the more I think, quote unquote, having your life together is a story we tell ourselves so that we don't have to confront mortality and the big questions. Like I'm looking for a life more in poetry than ever before, right? Whereas when I was younger, I would have thought that was a bit silly. But I'm getting to that age where I think about legacies and meaning and not quote unquote. I mean, I was about to say the finer things in life, but I realized like the gender gap is there too, right? Like I would say that, and across the sex divide, folks hearing that might think that I'm talking about like nice restaurants and like really Instagram worthy sushi, and I'm not. I'm talking about like vows of poverty and maybe visiting monasteries where you have to be silent for 6 months, right? Like a completely different thing. Um, and I think there is this huge gap, right? And neither side wants to change. Like I absolutely, I don't begrudge anybody being the way they are, right? If I don't want to like pay more for haircuts and start finding more designery clothing and talk more about work and money and success, like I can't I can't blame somebody else for not wanting to stop talking about those things, right? Go in a different direction. In the sense it kind of speaks to both sides looking for something different. And I don't know how we get past that. Like I said, I've been divorced for 10 years. In that time, I've had zero dates came out of the sites and only 3 chats. But I've seen a decent number of profiles, and I have had those 3 chats, and they did not. I mean, they all left me sort of chuckling, right? Like, wow, that was that was kind of a disaster. Um, and then I have conversations in real life, and not all of them are like toward my own sort of romantic project, which is not much of a project. Like I said, my life is pretty busy. Maybe it'll turn into more of a project once my kids are like fully launched, and it's just me in a house by myself with pets. Um, but it's there are ways in which we're just looking for different things right now, and I'm not sure how we get around that. And when I have conversations, like I said, it's not all about my romantic story, right? I also have friends. I have friends that are women that, some were friends in college, some were friends before that. Um, and they're among the people who advise me, right? Like you should hit the sites. You should go on dates. Let me fix you up with somebody. Also, some of them are people who I don't talk to as much anymore, or sometimes even at all. Again, because of the politics thing, because the fact that I'm independent is somehow complicit, right? I do have those people in my life. I have a few on the male side of the aisle as well. So this is not necessarily just uh, don't think that I'm making this a female thing. Although it is, it's a larger number of women acquaintances who have sort of put me in that box of like, oh, he's toxically masculine because he doesn't like hate Trump exclusively. He hates the Democrats too. Um, I don't know. I maybe do them a disservice by characterizing what their thought process is without them being here. But I will say there are some also who talk about their own romantic lives, and I know that people are lonely, right? I know that some of my friends who are women are lonely, but the problem is like, and I don't know whether I do a good enough job of trying to explain this to them or whether it's even my place to. Um, but there are some cases in which I almost would I almost should say like you realize like all that stuff you're doing, like women might find that attractive, but like this is not for guys, right? Like the way that you're going about this, you know if I was being heartless, right, in some cases I might say like, well, I wouldn't date you, but you can't really say that to your friends, right? Or at least not in so many words. I try to use others, but there's this gap, right? I don't know where we go from here. Like, what do we do? Fertility rates are falling. There's a whole generation, like everybody knows, like this is not super intensely personal or anything, because we all know there's like a whole generation of like the divorce rate has been really high, and also the getting together rate has been comparatively low relative to the past. Not just for my generation, but getting worse with every succeeding generation, millennials and then Gen Z, and everybody's like, "Oh no, what do we do?" But I don't know, like, what do we do? Right? We have this problem, and it is unclear to me what we do. But I do think it's worth saying, and I suddenly feel as though maybe I should have said this to some of my friends more clearly. Um, like maybe people don't know uh, that, like, I'll speak for the men and let women speak for the women. But speaking for the men, um, the fact that you have a really good job and you earn six or even seven figures, and you have like two houses and a boat, and 400 people answer to you, like zero relevance. Totally, totally unexciting. Not attractive. Not unattractive. It's just irrelevant. It has nothing to do with mating. As a guy, it's like, okay, well, good for you. Same thing for, I live a life of 24/7 endless danger and adventure. That just seems high maintenance. Um, and then I'm looking for a man to father my children feels like you're essentially signing up for cash liabilities, right? like okay, so you would like a cash donor um, from now on. It doesn't give the air, it doesn't give the impression that this is going to be a relationship. It gives the impression that this is going to be a financial responsibility. And while most of the men I know are happy to take financial responsibility when appropriate, and maybe even to be generous, being asked in that way is not on the cards. And then the other thing is, and this, I mean, at least this is kind of a throwback. Um, in case, most people learn by the time they get out of their 20s, but apparently not everybody. Um, Despite the rumors, most men are not that into it when you turn up like blind drunk or out of your head. Um, because all of this, um, really, at the end of the day, I think all of these, one of the things that they have in common as a guy is that they just make you think that this person is tremendously high maintenance and has tremendously high expectations of your obligation. And then your immediate reaction is like, for what? You want me to sign up to be on the hook for what exactly? And why should I? And maybe the fact that you're asking this up front means that this is not a great place to go. So and like I said, I'll let women speak for what the guys are doing wrong, right? The fact that you know I've been out there for 10 years and it's resulted in 3 chats indicates that we guys are also completely out of range to the women too, right? Like I said, like, I'm not trying to toot my own horn. I'm an average looking dude. Uh, I'm somewhat not average once you move past like looks, right? Like I know full well based on the criteria that women cite, right? Like, okay, I'm tallish. I am a senior professional. I have an elite education, uh, and I'm massively handy, right? This is what is suggested to be desirable, but I think as is the case with all this dating stuff, there's just a lot more to it than that. And at the end of the day, um, we are all looking at each other's red flags and being waved off. And the thing is, I don't think any of us, like, those red flags are not going away, right? We're not going to stop being who we are. I wouldn't expect women to do that any more than I plan to do that myself. So what do we do? I don't know. And so when somebody says, "Oh, you should get on the sites," what do I do? I say, "Yeah, maybe I should," and then we move on.